at the end of the season a lot. So we've got good tape to evaluate, and we saw some pretty good growth. But, we have to react what happens in front of us. We don't have the first pick, Cincinnati does. So based on that, we have to decide the direction we want to head from there. So we're going to wait and see. So as far as we're concerned, we're doing our due diligence. We're looking at every player, and then we're going to finish the rest of the evaluations. But, again, we're going to do everything that we need to do so that when it comes time, there are no surprises.
All right, I got two Jeffs for you this morning, Saturday in Darlington. I want to start just quickly with the player's perspective. There is no rule that says the coach can't say, oh, yeah, Dwayne Haskins is my quarterback, and I'm excited about it, and we're going forward with him. So what should a player, maybe particularly Haskins, read into the fact that Rivera said basically the opposite of that?
Yeah, you're not his guy right now. Like, he's saying that, whether it's Tua or whether it's down the road, you feel like he's trying to move on without you. That's not the vote of confidence you're looking for from Ron Rivera in his first year there.
So, Jeff Darlington, what do we make of that? Tua obviously is an extraordinary, tempting opportunity.
Well, look, I've spent a lot of time around Ron Rivera. He's one of the most honest people in the NFL. What you hear from him is what you're getting. It's not just a cliche. And from conversations I've had off air, basically Rivera does want to see whether Tua is completely healthy, whether he thinks he's a generational player, and he will consider it there. That being said, I'd still feel like this is setting up the next few weeks, next few months leading into the draft to just make sure, as he said it, he's doing his due diligence.
I want to ask you this question, Jeff, Saturday, and I want to preface it because before people lose their minds, I'm in no way comparing Dwayne Haskins to Peyton Manning. But when you were in Indianapolis with Peyton all those years, and then the situation comes up where they're going to draft Andrew Luck, they're drafting the guy who was going to be their quarterback. They could have kept Peyton there. There were some people, including me, who wondered aloud if they should, and they didn't. Spin it to this. If they do decide to draft Tua Tagovailoa, do they need to trade away Dwayne Haskins?
They would need to, because he's going to have no value when Tua takes his job, right? So if you're trying to get something back from the pick that you had the year before, now is the time. You can't expect him to play behind Tua and then anybody else, because he's got such a small sample size of playing as it is. You've devalued your player for the trade.
I disagree with that. I think that you can boost the value by saying Tua is just simply that generational and eventually get something for him down the road. He's still an affordable guy.
I would agree with you had he not already played, but he does have some tape out there from last year, so it already speaks for what he's done. So the same evaluation Ron Rivera gave him, the next coach is going to do it. So without him beating out, because here's the deal, we all know Tua's coming off an injury. So if a guy's coming off an injury and still beats the guy that you picked midway in the first round last year, you're telling him, I got no vote of confidence in this guy. We're moving on either way. That's a bad sell job all the way.
Here's the way I look at this thing, Jeff Darlington. The value, assuming that all the medicals come back, and again, Laura is constantly talking to the doctors there, all signs point to the medicals coming back as positive as they possibly can. Assuming that is the scenario here, the value at the second pick in this draft is Tua. It is not Chase Young, no matter how good a player he is. So it feels to me like Washington has two options. You either draft him if you want him, or you trade that pick. Those two feel like the likeliest scenarios to me.
I agree. I know Jeff loves Chase Young.
Yeah, I disagree.
That's the only reason. I'm with you in the sense that
let me find out why you disagree.
Because I think pass rushers, although they're not as valuable as a quarterback, they are the second most valuable position on your football team. And you think about T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Bradley Chubb. Think about the names. Bosa from the 49ers don't make the Super Bowl without Bosa last year. He had 60 pressures, 9 sacks. He is a playmaker. Guys like that, you need on the team. You go draft Chase Young at number 2. 10 years down the road, you still have a starter and a guy who is making plays. If Tua doesn't work out because of a health reason, you're betting the odds that this kid not only is healthy, but that he can play that long for your franchise. With a defensive end, you're predicting really, it's a high probability this guy's going to be a producer.
To Greeny's point, though, you could get a haul at number 2 to one of these teams that want a quarterback. That is where the most value you're going to get.
And they already have a good defensive line. They already have a good pass rush. I get that it's not elite the way San Francisco's is. And they could put together something like that, and that's the blueprint. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to make you do what reporters hate doing. I'm going to make you guess Would you guess that when push comes to shove, they will take Chase Young?
I think the safe pick is Chase Young. If we're guessing right now, I think that Chase Young is the safe
Look
pick.
how easy that was for all of us. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, see how quickly they compromise? It's that fast they get in line with the O-lineman. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, then the draft really would then start at 3, and Detroit would be on the clock. And
that
would
that's
be
right.
sitting there. It'd be fascinating. Meanwhile, let's run the hurry up with you, Darlington. Panthers head coach Matt Rule said last week he absolutely expects Cam Newton to be on his roster in September. What are you hearing?
Yeah, that's fine. All well and good. I still think that the Panthers want to evaluate his health moving forward. We cannot dismiss Dave Tepper's comments. A healthy Cam Newton, yes, I believe will start for this team. But one that they're not sure about, I think that they will make they'll make decisions to make sure that they're ready to have somebody starting week 1.
Another quarterback question is about that man, Jameis Winston in Tampa. What are you hearing about his future?
It is still a split decision within that house. I think that Tom Brady is still somebody we should pay attention to when it comes to the Tampa Bay Bucks. But when Bruce Arians says door number 2, he's not just talking about Tom Brady. There are other options they will consider. The ownership is very patient. I'd say they'll wait another week, maybe even 2, as they get into that March 12th tag deadline.
I think this is important because we talked about how Ron Rivera didn't give a vote of confidence to Dwayne Haskins, and that's all well and good. Bruce Arians essentially showed Jameis Winston the door, right?
Absolutely.
And you know him well.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And BA, the same thing with Ron Rivera, he is very straight shooter. When he tells you door number 2, that's door 3, 4, 5. All doors are open at this point. I'm trying to replace you unless I absolutely can't. Like there is no hesitation in him saying that. If you're Jameis Winston, you know they're looking to replace you.
I didn't have you here yesterday, Saturday. Let's see if I can find one friend on this. I'm the last member of the Haven't Given Up on Jameis Winston Club. I couldn't find a friend on that yesterday. Will you be a member of my club?
I am a member of your club.
Okay.
I actually am. I think from where Jameis Winston is, I think the upside is still fairly strong. Now, the interceptions from last year obviously are devastating, but in my opinion, the upside, he's thrown for 4,000 yards twice and 5,000 one time, so it's not like he hasn't been productive. His decision-making has got to get better, and obviously the clock is running out.
Correct. The biggest knock on Jameis is that we still talk about him like a prospect.
That's
when he's
correct.
been in the league for 5 years. Yeah. I get it. I'm not suggesting I'd rather have him than, say, Tom Brady.
No.
That brings us to that. So Tampa obviously is one of the places that feels very much in the mix. Every time you come on our show, you set the world on fire with Brady conversation. Where are we? 2 weeks from right this minute.
Right.
The overwhelming likelihood is that 2 weeks from right now, we are talking about Tom Brady being a member of another team or back
crazy.
with New England.
That's
2 weeks
crazy.
from right now.
Right, and look, when we look at this right now, we're kind of having to split this down the middle of teams that are potentially interested in Tom Brady and teams that Tom Brady is interested in. We have not yet reached the point where we are marrying those two sides. But I can tell you right now that I've spoken to executives with 8 different teams that are at the very least monitoring Tom Brady's free agency. They are going down this list, having internal discussions right now saying, is this the right fit for our organization? 4 of those teams, I believe, would sign him right now. The varying levels of interest within those teams makes it such, though, we still have such a long way to go. 2 weeks doesn't feel that long, but there's a lot of progress that needs to be made between the teams that are interested in Tom and the teams that Tom are interested in to marry those.
But again,
together.
you know of at least 8 teams that are having significant conversations.
Wow.
It's a quarter of the league talking about this player. Now, none of them are allowed to be having official conversations with him. That doesn't mean that, intermediaries aren't having some discussions. But it does make it interesting that the one team that could legally be talking to him all they want doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, we should point out that, as far as I understand, there is communication between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Okay.
It's not to say that there is...
For his old team, the Patriots, it would be the cleanest possible scenario. But here's the next thing that we should bring up. Because it is no secret which teams are expressing interest, some of them quietly, some of them not so, in Brady. And only one of them is going to get him. So there's going to be some cleanup to be done. And I'm remembering a circumstance many years ago where when Peyton Manning was available to, every team in the league, the Jets, my favorite team, made very public the fact that they wanted to try and get him. And I was fighting against that like crazy because I kept saying there is no chance Peyton Manning is going to come to the Jets, and now you have basically thrown your quarterback, Mark Sanchez, under the bus.
That's right.
What happened? They didn't get Peyton. They then extended Sanchez, extended his contract, which they otherwise would never have had to do or done based upon the fact that they had humiliated him in this way. And they have literally not made the playoffs since. So that's going to happen. Some variation on that is going to happen in a bunch of different places.
Yeah, and listen, when you're a player who has taken your team, whether it be a playoff team, which we know there's a lot of playoff teams who are interested in Tom Brady as well. When you're talking about these teams, it's a fine line of making sure your guy still feels the love. Man, we like you. We're not talking to Tom Brady, keeping everything all quiet, and then all of a sudden making a move. Because if you don't, to your point, you have to now go back and relay a foundation of trust, the foundation in the locker room, all of those different things. It is a very difficult thing. And the problem with what you started the whole segment of it's in 2 weeks is as time progresses, these other players want to know from their team because they can talk to their team. So, hey, why aren't you? And you keep getting the Heisman a little bit, getting pushed off. It makes an unsettling feeling for the guy who's been there.
Well, I'm thinking of, in no particular order, Derek Carr in now Las Vegas, or what used to be Oakland, and Jameis in Tampa, and all these other players. Ryan Tannehill,
that's right,
who the Tennessee Titans could be bringing back. All of this hinges on some level. The first domino is Brady, yes, no matter what else happens.
Yes, and that is the most fascinating dynamic in play here, because the first domino is a guy who can't technically talk to teams until March 16th, while these other teams are trying to make decisions on their quarterbacks right now, whether it has to do with franchising a guy, potentially trading a guy, all of those factors in line. That is what is so incredible about this situation, is the timing of it all.
And just to make sure that we wrap this all up in a way that makes sense, it is totally unreasonable to think that Brady is flying completely blind until March 16th, right? I mean, that's a week from Monday, and the notion that there are not some sort of exploratory conversations going on in multiple places would be hopelessly naive.
You said it.
Fair enough.
Yes.
I said it. You'll say it too, right?
100%. There are all kinds of, his people are talking to my people that are talking to that person. There are definitely conversations being had to make sure, to your point, you don't get to the 16th and you have no plan.
Go ahead. Go.
No, you guys said that. I just do want to point out, though, when we talk about those 8 teams, there are teams that make sense right now. They'd be pounding the table. Let's sign him. There are other teams who are saying, okay, we